New York's classic rock, Q1043.
I say good morning to a man I so respect. I love his work. I've wanted to talk to him for years. And he just laughed at me when I told him, I hate to say this, but I'm a fan. And he said, why do you have to you hate to say that? And I said, because I don't want to be cloying. Tim Robbins is here with me. Oscar winner, two-time Oscar winner, directing Dead Man Walking, and for Best Supporting Actor. Oh no, I'm getting for Mystic River, or did I get these confused in my enthusiasm?
Actually, I won for Mystic River for acting, but I was nominated for directing.
Okay, well, you should have won.
I should have won.
It was a wonderful movie. But the movie that first got me, that and everyone, when they named their favorite films ever, The Shawshank Redemption. Before we get on to the reason why you're joining me here today, did you have any inkling making that movie that it would live on as such a classic through the years?
I think we knew that we had a potential to do a really good film. It was probably the best script I've ever read. I think Morgan felt that, and Roger Deakins, who was the cinematographer, felt that as well. So but we had no idea, of course, that it would become this kind of touchstone for so many people.
And the reason Tim Robbins is with me today is that he is directing a live performance every single Sunday of Studs Terkel's Hard Times, which explored 30 different stories from the Depression. So we're talking about, it's a little bit complicated. You can see this, you can join this by Zoom live today. It's in 3 different parts. You have 3 different sessions. I'll let you explain it from there, Tim.
It's not that complicated. We actually do it live Thursday night at 7, so 10 Eastern time, Friday night at the same time, and Saturday night at the same time. Saturday, we do repeats of the Monday and Tuesday, so we do a marathon, but it's still live for the third part. And then Sunday, we do we don't do it live. It's a recording of a live show that just was performed just recently. And we do that because we want people in other time zones to be able to see it. So it would start at noon your time on Sundays.
Okay. And how can they join by Zoom?
theactorsgang.com.
Now, is this your group, the Actors Gang? Did you form this group?
Yes. 40 years ago, if you
want
to believe it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we were a bunch of punk rockers coming out of UCLA. We wanted to do theater that mattered. And we wanted to do theater with energy and excitement that we saw at punk rock shows. And so it was a bunch of like-minded people that wanted to do this. And we started with this play that was a big hit. And we've been together ever since. Why
did you decide to do Terkel's work? Why now? Why the Depression? And why by Zoom?
So Zoom is our only option at this point. We're still in a kind of holding pattern on whether we can reopen the theater or not. When this all happened, when we went into lockdown, we started workshopping online in Zoom. And we found quickly that we couldn't really do the theater that we usually do on Zoom. It's not a medium for it. And so we adapted and we started doing first-person accounts, storytelling into the camera, direct, personal, intimate. And the best material I could figure was going to be Studs Terkel's Hard Times, because we figured we'd do this eventually. And as we started to read through them, we realized that they could have been spoken yesterday. They're so relevant to what's happening right now. And the great thing and the most important thing that we wanted to achieve with this piece was the sense of survival that you find when you're reading this book, Hard Times. It's not depressing. It's actually inspiring, because these are people that actually lived through a very, very challenging and difficult time and divisive time. and they found their way through. They found common cause. They found unity. They found a love and shared compassion for other people. And that's how they survived. And so we thought, well, by the time we're ready to do this, this is going to be even more relevant. So let's keep working on it. And eventually we started doing it in June, and we realized the audiences were responding incredibly to it. So I wanted to expand it to the whole country, because I've always wanted to, throughout the years, we've toured all around the United States. We've been in 40 states, and we've been in 5 continents, and and so we love when we tour. And this was, this is an opportunity to tour. This is an opportunity to reach out into all these communities we've been to in the past, and the people that can't see us because they can't make regular trips to Los Angeles. We're making a trip to you, right to your bedroom. Just roll out of bed, turn on the computer. We'll be right at you.
People have an opportunity to interact at some point, right?
Yes. 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 It depends. It'll be listed, but we do talkbacks after the live sessions on Thursday and Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
And so the audiences join us afterwards to discuss and to share their own stories. And one of the things that we did with this was I asked people in the company, those that wanted to write their own stories of their own families. And I encouraged everyone in the company, because of the sense of isolation that we were going through in the lockdown, to reach out to their family members and ask them, hey, Grandma, what was it like to live through this period? Or Mom, what did Grandma go through in this period that was similar to ours? And they started coming back with these stories that they would share. And then I encouraged some of them to write those stories. And there's about 8 pieces in the 3 parts that are direct personal accounts. I also want to just stress that it's part 1, part 2, and part 3, but they're not in order. You don't have to see part 1 to see part 2. They're all independent of each other.
And they're all different stories of people who endured and survived the Depression. Now, speaking of that, you asked your actors to find out about their families. What did you find out about your own family surviving the Depression?
Well, my parents were born in 31 and 32, so they were children, young children, when the Depression went on. One of the things that's a pretty common story with people my age is how at the dinner table, you were not to waste a scrap of food.
That's true.
Yes.
Right.
And why was that? Because they were freaking starving through the Depression. There wasn't enough food, and everybody felt it. And so that desperation never left my parents, that desperation of the child trying to fill their tummy, and it informed, and we talk about this in a couple of the pieces, how it informed future generations. It wasn't just the people that went through the Depression, it was their ancestors and how they were treated and how they were taught and what they were taught, what their priorities should be. One of the things that was super important for us was to stress what we were finding when we first read these pieces, which was not only their relevance, but that they were telling stories of survivors, people that made it through, and what that took. And I think that story is key to tell right now.
I'm speaking with Tim Robbins, and we are talking about his production, We Live On, which you can see by Zoom. And it's really exploring 30 different stories documented by Studs Terkel. I wanted to pick your brain about something that you mentioned, because we're talking about surviving the Depression and how polarized things were then. It took, to me, World War II to get out of that psychologically, out of that polarization. The last time I remember our country not being polarized, not being divided, it was a tragedy. It was 9/11. What do you think it's going to take to shake us out of this hell that is becoming worse politically and in our world?
Well, that's a huge question. And there's many different ways to approach it. But here's what first, let's preface this by, I believe that from time immemorial, it has been a strategy of people in power to keep their populace divided. I study history. It's always the case. Why are we so divided now? I don't want to point fingers. I think it's all of our fault. I think it's my fault. I think it's because we have gotten really tribal. Because of social media, we can find our tribe of people that agree with us, and we can vilify the other as the stupid, the ignorant, the ones that are doing things that are hurting us. And they, in turn, do the same thing to us. And it's all because of an abstract form, a social media that allows this unbridled hatred. And it comes from both sides. And the unbridled hatred is possible because you are typing it into a keyboard by yourself in a room alone. And that is not possible, for the most part, in a real social interaction. So we're desperately missing this social interaction. And we're desperately missing voices that should remind us that we have a lot more in common than we think. And that the division that's happening has to do with more than just politics and vaccines or whatever. It has to do with a power structure that needs us to be divided. And so you can, whatever your opinion on that is, you can reject that completely. You can say, well, that's bull. But here's the only way forward, in my opinion. The only way forward is humility. The only way forward is to give up some of that pride you may have and to admit that maybe you might be wrong about something, and to find common ground with someone that you disagree with, to find a way that you can forgive in this moment, particularly as so tragically has happened. Family members falling apart from each other, friends, long-term friends, lines drawn in the sand. I will not talk to that person ever again. It's sad, it's tragic, and it doesn't end well. Because once you draw that line in the sand and you demand that you are right and everyone must behave according to your beliefs, I'm telling you, it doesn't end well. It doesn't end well. And that I'm saying to the right and to the left. Both of you, both groups have to understand that this will not end well unless we find love and forgiveness and empathy for people that disagree with us right now.
Very wise words. We have 1 minute left. What else would you like to say or touch on that we have not covered?
I'd like to say that it has been a real joy to be doing this piece we live on at this time, because we're able in these talkbacks on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to actually share with people that we don't know. They're strangers that come into a common experience, something that we have been sorely lacking. And this is something I've been very concerned about. Think about it. How many times in human history has the ability to assemble with others in another room been forbidden? it doesn't happen very often. I can't think of any. Maybe the Spanish flu. But this is an extraordinary thing that we are missing in our humanity right now. The ability to gather, to be able to share a common story with others that we don't know. We don't know their politics. We don't know what they think about anything. But we are sharing a story, whether it's a story told by an actor on a stage, whether it's a story told by a movie, or whether it's a story told by a singer in a concert. That's essential to human survival. It's been around since the first fire, and it went into theaters eventually, Greek amphitheaters and festivals. Festivals. Why are festivals always part of every history, of every culture? Because it's an essential need for the human being to assemble with others, to find common humanity.
And you can join.
We have been starved from that, and that is part of the reason we are in this divided, polarized situation right now.
And you can join, directed by Tim Robbins, We Live On, performed by the Actors Gang, performed by Zoom. And I thank you so much, Tim Robbins. When we come back, we're going to talk.
Don't tell them where to get tickets.
Okay, go ahead.
Theactorsgang.com. And one other thing I just want to say real quick.
Yes.
If you're busted, if you do not have money right now, as I know a lot of people are struggling, we have made it possible for you to see this for free. So you just have to reach out and we'll take care of you. Okay.
theactorsgangtheater.com. Thank you, Tim Robbins. We'll be back in a minute touching on something we discussed kind of sort of here, mental health during the pandemic. Q104.3.
New York's classic rock, Q104.3.